Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. In the year 1928, somewhere in the icy Indian Karakoram Mountains, a mountaineer is preparing his equipment for a new climb when suddenly he sees a bright ray of light amidst the peaks and decides to investigate what is happening. He heads towards the source of light and discovers a luminous sphere covered with a thin layer of ice. Very curious about it, he starts chipping away at the ice with a pickaxe. He is immediately engulfed in a brilliant light, causing him to lose consciousness. After a while, the mountaineer wakes up and realizes that the sphere has disappeared, and a strange round mark has appeared on his arm. Fast forward to the present day, where astrobiologist Dr. Helen Benson is giving a lecture on extraterrestrial bacteria at Princeton University. After the class, a lab technician invites her to a party, but she declines, mentioning that she has certain extreme conditions awaiting her at home. By that, she means her young stepson named Jacob, with whom she has a complicated relationship. At home, the boy refuses to eat healthy food and continues playing video games. Helen is distracted by a phone call where an unknown person specifies her residential address and informs her that a car is coming to pick her up soon. Moments later, a police squad arrives at her house and knocks on the door. The man in a suit tells Helen that the FBI needs her help. He asks her to follow him immediately without giving further information. Leaving Jacob in the care of the neighbor and feeling confused, she gets into the car. On the way, Helen persistently tries to find out why the FBI needs her, but the agents accompanying her don't know anything. However, the case is urgent, otherwise, she wouldn't have been escorted by dozens of police cars. The convoy arrives at an airfield, where Helen boards a helicopter. There, along with other civilians escorted by the military, are other experts from various fields, a nuclear physicist, an astronomer, and a civil engineer. The gathered individuals are certain that they have not been mobilized for exercises and that something extraordinary has happened somewhere. The scientists are taken to a military base in New Jersey. Upon entering the building, the military asks everyone to hand over their phones, but Helen manages to hide hers under her clothes. They are greeted by Dr. Granier, who briefs them on the situation. An unidentified object from space is approaching Earth following an unconventional trajectory. According to the scientists' preliminary calculations, the object will inevitably collide with the planet, and due to its enormous speed, it is impossible to shoot it down with missiles. Therefore, the government has decided to form an emergency response team that will be able to deal with the consequences of the impending catastrophe. The team is just a little over an hour before the cosmic object falls on Manhattan and kills 8 million inhabitants. After the encounter, Helen locks herself in the bathroom to call Jacob and warn him of the danger. She doesn't know how to break the shocking truth to her son, so she asks him to lock himself in the basement and wait for the big storm. One of the military personnel overhears her conversation and knocks heavily on the cabin door. However, upon learning that Helen has a cell phone there, the military personnel asks if she can lend it to make a call to their loved ones. A team of scientists heads to the projected impact site of the object. They are very alarmed, stating that the object cannot be identified, and the rocket launch system has been blocked by something. Fearful, they hold hands and count down the last seconds until impact, but when it reaches zero, nothing happens. Through the helicopter window, the team sees a bright ball of light slowly approaching Earth, illuminating the streets of New York City. The cosmic object hovers until it reaches the middle of Central Park, causing terrified citizens to flee. Wearing protective suits, the scientists cautiously approach the bright sphere. As they get closer, they detect the presence of strong electromagnetic waves. Military, police, and snipers surround the bright sphere from all sides, awaiting further orders. A brilliant light dazzles everyone present, and an alien creature emerges to meet them. Helen, seemingly hypnotized, slowly approaches the alien, and it extends its hand towards her. She reaches out her hand in return, but at that moment, a shot is fired, and the visiting alien falls unconscious into her arms. Suddenly, a massive creature also emerges from the light and incapacitates all the weapons and machines around it. Then, it releases a terrible ultrasonic sound that stuns all living creatures. The creature heads towards the wounded alien, but it stops it with a gesture. The immobile being immediately resumes its position, and terrestrial equipment returns to normal. The injured alien visitor is quickly taken to a military laboratory. The doctors are unsure how to treat the foreigner since they know absolutely nothing about its physiology. Helen advises them to bring in a surgeon to remove the bullet from the creature's body. When the surgeon intervenes, the gray, fibrous tissue starts to crack and separate from the alien's body. After removing the entire outer layer, the doctors discover that the creature resembles a typical human being very closely. After the operation, the alien is placed in a special protective capsule, and its condition continues to be monitored. The patient's vital signs quickly recover, and it regains consciousness. At first, the alien panics, but when it sees Helen in front of it, it calms down. She assures the alien that it is not in danger. However, the alien visitor has now assumed the complete form of a human being and looks exactly like the mountaineer from 1928. It confusingly repeats Dr. Helen's words, as if memorizing them. After what happened in Central Park, humanity is in total panic. Stock markets are closing, and civilians are being urgently prepared for evacuation. Residents of other cities around the world are fleeing population centers on their own, fearing an alien invasion. While the president and vice president are hiding in a shelter, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Regina Jackson, takes control of the situation. In an emergency meeting, she is informed that the aliens managed to hack one of the spy satellites, and they now have all the classified information about the defenses. According to intelligence service, similar bright spheres of different sizes have landed in other places around the world. Arriving at the laboratory, Regina hears the scientists report. Samples of flesh taken from the alien show the presence of DNA from 3 different life forms. The body tissues of the being are human, and the gray flesh casing is organic, serving as a protective suit for the placenta. Dr. Helen suggests that the aliens had previously visited Earth and obtained a sample of human DNA. That's why the injured alien visitor was able to take on the appearance of an ordinary man. The group visits the alien in his room. He is already speaking in full sentences and asks for water. With a trembling hand, he brings the glass to his mouth, commenting aloud that it will take time for him to get used to this body. They look at each other uncertainly, not knowing how to conduct a dialogue with the alien. Jackson decides to talk to the alien first and asks about his intentions, but gets no response. Then Helen asks him to tell her about himself and his name. The alien introduces himself as Klaatu and says he is a representative of a group of civilizations. He asks for a special meeting of the United Nations to address them, but Regina refuses. After speaking with the alien, Regina orders that he be injected with truth serum and taken to a more secure location for interrogation. Scientists believe that Klaatu will be the most important discovery in human history and do not want to hand him over to the Secret Service. However, the Secretary of Defense is determined and believes that a representative of an extraterrestrial civilization poses a great danger to humanity. He intends to obtain as much information as possible about the aliens' objectives on this planet. Dr. Granier gets into an argument with Regina, but they are interrupted by Helena. She assures that she will personally inject the alien and perform all necessary tests. The FBI agent hands her a vial of truth serum, but she secretly takes a vial of regular saline solution from the shelf. Regina tells Klaatu that he will be transferred to a safer location. The alien disagrees and informs them that he intends to leave the military base. The secretary will not let the foreign guest leave since he illegally invaded this planet and his huge robot attacked the military. Klaatu explains that the biobot is only activated in the presence of violence. However, Regina tells Dr. Benson to administer the injection. During the injection, Helen whispers faintly to the man that he should escape. After the procedure, she is immediately taken away by the military, and Klaatu is put in a chair and taken to a room with a lie detector. The agent asks some control questions and monitors his readings on a monitor. At some point, Klaatu reprograms the lie detector, and the agent is electrocuted. The alien takes control of the man's mind and learns how to leave the military base. After obtaining all the necessary information, the alien dons the agent's clothing. Using his ability to control Earth's electronic technology, he discovers the location of the guards and stuns them all with some kind of sound frequency. The alarm goes off, but Klaatu manages to leave the building quietly. In the general confusion, Helen steals a sample of the flesh covering the alien. Upon learning of Klaatu's escape, Regina orders the use of all available resources to capture the fugitive. Klaatu arrives at a train station, where there is complete chaos due to several cancelled departures. Being one-third human, Klaatu is hungry, so he uses his powers to obtain a free sandwich from a vending machine. He then observes with interest the aggressive behavior of people in the train station's hall. Suddenly, he starts feeling unwell and isolates himself in the restroom, where he realizes that he is bleeding from his gunshot wound. Because of the vulnerability of the human body, the alien faints. At Helen's house, the phone rings. It's a guard from the train station informing her that a man is there claiming to be her patient and needs her help. When she realizes that the man in question is the alien, she immediately says she will pick him up. She puts him in the car, where he meets the ill-mannered Jacob. Klaatu asks Helen to give him the sample of gray tissue that was removed from him, which she had taken from the lab. He applies it to his wound, and it instantly heals. Meanwhile, US military forces attempt to attack the biobot. Detecting the approaching threat, the giant is immediately activated. It takes control of all military equipment and destroys it. All attempts to attack the alien fail, leading the military commanders to desperation. Helen continues to follow the route that Klaatu is instructing her to take. Jacob notices a huge traffic jam of cars trying to leave the city and says they shouldn't run but fight instead. The boy hates the alien creatures and believes they should be destroyed. He also says he is sure his father would have fought them if he were alive. He then asks Klaatu what he thinks, whether men should run or fight, to which he quickly responds neither, as they can do nothing to stop it. After that, the trio reaches their destination. When Jacob goes to the bathroom, Klaatu asks Helen about her family. It turns out that the boy's father was a military engineer, and his mother died during childbirth. Helen married him, but shortly afterward, he died, and the boy remained under her care. They enter a fast food cafe, where Klaatu meets an elderly man, who is also a member of an extraterrestrial race sent to Earth much earlier to study human beings. Klaatu warns his compatriot about the operation and suggests he leaves. However, the old man intends to stay on Earth since, during his long years of research, he grew to love Earthlings and even has a family of his own. Although the old man believes that humans are destroying the planet, he would be happy to spend humanity's last moments with them. Meanwhile, the military installs super-resistant steel panels around the giant inactive biobot, acting completely non-violently in the hope of blocking its powers. An emergency hotline has received hundreds of calls from people who have seen Klaatu. By order of the minister, the man is presented as a fugitive criminal. Meanwhile, Helen, the alien, and Jacob drive to the state of New Jersey. Upon arriving in a forest, Klaatu asks to stop the car and gets out of the cabin. The woman is worried about the strange behavior of the alien, so she asks Jacob to stay locked in the car while she follows Klaatu. A swarm of insects flies past her, leading her to a lake where the alien is standing. Secretly, she observes as another bright sphere emerges from the water. At the same time, Klaatu initiates the emergence of alien spheres all over the planet. Shocked by what she sees, Helen returns to the car, and Jacob questions her about the strange companion, suspecting something is wrong. The boy fears that Helen will marry Klaatu, and he will take the place of his father. Upset by his own assumptions, the sullen boy gets out of the car, saying he is going home. Helen follows him when suddenly they spot a bright beam of light among the trees. It is a bright sphere that, like all others around the world at that moment, is leaving the planet. Only one sphere remains on Earth, the one in which Klaatu arrived. The alien returns from the forest and asks Helen to take him back to the city. She refuses to help him and demands to know what is going on. Klaatu then tells her that humanity is destroying the Earth with its activities, and there are not many planets in the universe where complex biological organisms can live, so they came to save Earth from humans. The alien believes that the planet can be reborn if all human infestations are removed from it. Dr. Helen tries to convince the alien that humans can change and deserve another chance, but he does not believe her and says they have been observing humanity for years in the hope that people would change, but the situation has reached a critical point. Despite Helen's appeals, Klaatu informs her that the process has already begun, and nothing can be changed. At that moment, a police car manages to catch up to the alien, and the officer finds him, pointing a gun at him and ordering him to surrender. Jacob asks Klaatu not to hurt the officer, but with no emotion, the alien declares that the officer's pain will be quick, and with a gesture of his hand, he makes Helen's car hit the officer. When the man stops showing signs of life, Klaatu revives him, using the same gray matter he used before to heal himself and the car's energy as a defibrillator, completely restoring him. Klaatu explains that he didn't intend to kill the officer, he just wanted to remove a temporary obstacle. With this, Helen becomes convinced that the alien can stop the process of humanity's destruction if he wants to. She asks Klaatu to prevent the destruction, but he refuses, claiming that he tried to speak with their world leaders, but they wouldn't listen to him. Helen asks him to speak with a man she thinks can change his mind. Meanwhile, the Secret Service investigates the purpose of the alien's arrival on this planet. The scientists discover that various types of Earth creatures are being transported in the bright spheres. Secretary Jackson then concludes that what is happening is very similar to the rescue of living species during Noah's Ark times. The American commanders realize that they must expect an attack soon, so they quickly place the biobot in a deep underground silo. Riots begin to erupt all over the planet, and cases of looting increase. Dr. Helen takes Klaatu to an old Nobel Prize-winning mathematician-scientist. The alien directs his attention to a complex formula and decides to correct it as he quickly spots an error in it. Realizing this, the scientist joins him, and they solve the unfinished problem together. The astonished scientist immediately guesses who is standing in front of him. While the adults are talking, Jacob sees a news report about Klaatu on TV and calls the hotline number. The scientist asks his guest how their civilization managed to survive. Klaatu tells him that their son started dying, and they had to evolve to survive. The mathematician then leads his guest to believe that humanity is also capable of change and is on the brink of extinction. The scientist's words make the alien ponder, but his thoughts are interrupted by the sudden appearance of an Air Force helicopter. Klaatu, Helen, and Jacob hurriedly leave the scientist's house. At parting, he advises Helen to change the alien's mind not through argument but through action. The trio tries to hide from the military in the woods, but Jacob stops in an open clearing and starts shouting and waving his arms to attract the helicopter's attention. The boy confesses to his stepmother that he was the one who called the SWAT team because that's what his father would have done. Emotionally, Helen tells him that his father is no longer there, leading the boy to reflect. Suddenly, one of the soldiers grabs Helen, and the helicopter immediately flies back to the base. The other two helicopters spot Klaatu and prepare to shoot at him. However, using his powers, the alien stuns the pilots and crashes the helicopters into each other. Jacob runs into the forest in fear, afraid that the alien might seek revenge. Klaatu catches up to the boy, saves him from falling into the river, and convinces him to follow him. When Helen is taken to the headquarters, she asks the Secretary of Defense to let her go because somehow Klaatu listens to her, and only she can stop him and prevent a disaster. Meanwhile, special forces are conducting experiments on the giant biobot at the military base. In an attempt to pierce its armor, one of the diamond drills breaks, and a scientist goes to replace it with another. But inside the broken drill, something like metal insects form and rapidly multiply. They then start spreading throughout the facility. Soon, the giant alien starts disintegrating into millions of tiny particles, which turn out to be nanorobots similar to insects. They instantly devour everything around them and turn everyone at the military base into dust. The military informs Jackson about the situation, saying that the nanorobots are impossible to destroy, as the missiles only increase their numbers. Having erupted, they form an enormous cloud moving in all directions, destroying everything in their path. Realizing that the military force is powerless against such a threat, the Secretary of Defense agrees to release Helen to negotiate with Klaatu. Scientist Greenier is summoned to help her. Meanwhile, the alien takes Jacob to a lumberjack's cabin and allows him to call his stepmother. The boy asks to be taken to Helen and suggests a safe place to meet. On the way to their destination, Jacob admits to Klaatu that he no longer wants to destroy him, as he had said before to Helen. Klaatu, who had been contemplating his beliefs, wonders if it's really necessary to destroy humanity. The boy takes Klaatu to the cemetery where his father is buried and desperately asks him to resurrect his father, as he did before with the officer. However, the visitor's alien abilities are useless at this point. Frustrated, Jacob tells the alien to leave. Helen rushes to the boy, who cries for his father, and she cries with him, comforting him, saying he's not alone. Observing the touching family reunion, Klaatu is finally convinced that humanity has a positive side and acknowledges that humans deserve another chance. But to do that, they need to change themselves and alter their way of life. The cloud of nanorobots is rapidly approaching New York, completely destroying a massive stadium within seconds. Despite Jackson's appeals to resolve the situation through peaceful negotiations, the President of the United States orders her to resume military action. Helen, Jacob, Klaatu, and Michael rush to Central Park, where the only sphere that remains is located. They break through the roadblocks, however, the military does not chase them. As they approach the sphere, the quartet realizes that the park is deserted, and all the military and scientists have been removed. They are immediately attacked by the Air Force, which opens fire on the alien orb, following the Secretary of Defense's orders. Michael ends up dying, and the others find themselves surrounded by a cloud of nanorobots. Klaatu tells the three of them that they need to get into the sphere, but the destructive cloud is already flying towards them. Klaatu helps Helen and Jacob hide under a bridge while his presence pushes the nanorobots as far away as possible. However, they manage to penetrate Jacob's body, slowly corroding him from the inside. Helen begs Klaatu to at least save the child. The alien saves both of them by removing the insects from their bodies and placing them in his own body. Klaatu confirms the words of the elderly scientist, saying that humans are capable of change when they are on the brink. With a farewell look at Helen and Jacob, he enters the destructive cloud and makes his way to the sphere. Klaatu manages to touch it, instantly deactivating all the nanorobots. However, along with that, all technology on Earth is also deactivated, plunging the cities into darkness and bringing life on the planet to a standstill. Klaatu considers this a fair price for humanity for the damage they caused to Earth. The alien then leaves the planet, giving human beings one last chance to correct their mistakes.